Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome everyone to our May 1st, 2024 Planning Board meeting, opening the meeting at 6:35. Charlene, roll call, please.
Richard Anthony.
Here?
Karen Robinson.
Here.
Lori Millette.
Here.
Tim Moore.
Here.
Tom Alberti.
Excused.
Thank you. Dan Kane.
Here.
Bill Coy.
Here.
And anybody heard from Victoria?
I would assume she's in transit.
Okay.
So
Very
that's
good.
the
That's it.
best case scenario. Yeah. All right, if we want to take a minute, review the minutes that we have here in our folders.
Yep.
We can entertain a motion to. April 17th.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from April 17th.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? No, we're, okay.
I don't think I say anything.
No, I was just thinking whether or not, okay, everyone's here.
Wanted to make, yeah, you looked at me like, I don't think I say anything.
Yeah, because we have five.
Yeah, no, that's.
Five of
where-
us
that's
tonight.
I'm innocent tonight.
He who shall not be heard.
Oh, doesn't mean you can't speak.
No, I know.
No,
Feel free to
yeah, no,
opine.
you can participate.
I know.
Just the voting part. Yeah.
All right, so. So this is a portion that we have here of our housing chapter master plan update. Is that, we want to hold off perhaps until Victoria shows
We
up?
can
or-
probably at least look at them thinking what Tim submitted.
Yeah, I read that over and I thought it was good, Tim. The only question I had was on number 11. Where you were comparing Plastow's regulation for multifamily is 3 or more, and you mentioned about the state. I believe the state definition is 5 or more.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, according to the RSA, on the state, it's more than 2.
Oh, really?
Looked it up. It's, if nobody minds if I look at my phone.
No, go right
For a
ahead.
minute.
No.
Nope, go ahead. Okay, so it's under RSA 674:43, power to review site plans. And it mentions, it's like a whole paragraph, but it says, non-residential uses or multi-family dwelling units, which are defined as any structures containing more than 2 dwelling units.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
so if we could just kind of,
State definition
and
is 2 or more.
that's compatible with.
with Plastow, yeah, because we're more than 3.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, thanks for picking that up. They must have changed
The
that.
only reason I did was because I remember we talked about it when we were talking about zoning one time, and
Yeah.
Victoria found it.
Very good.
So what are we looking to change that to?
I believe the state definition is 2
Yeah,
or
the-
more.
Yeah, there's really nothing to change, because what Lori just read
It
is,
lines up with Plastow.
lines up with Plastow, so you
Right.
can
Yeah.
kind of X out number 11.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh, so just
Right.
take that whole thing, number 11 out? Okay,
Oh, okay.
okay.
All right.
And these are just, Tim, basically, these are just comments, right?
Right,
I mean, so,
right.
you know,
Oh, yeah, right.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so we're saying that's. And just so we know that once, if we're, whatever changes or observations are being made, I mean, once these are, let's say, incorporated, are we in a position where we can just have it updated and move on?
I hope so.
Yeah.
Does it need any formal action from the board, or is it just enough to say that make the updates, then review, make sure they're made updated, and then?
Yeah. I mean, the board can decide whether or not they want to do something different than my comments. And we can, do that. A little tough without Victoria here, I think, too.
Yeah.
But ultimately, if we agree with these comments, then it'd be up to Victoria to incorporate them in the document. And then we have a public hearing on the master plan to actually adopt the housing chapter or section, whatever we want to call it.
And then the public hearing would basically be, we open it public, if there's, and close it, and then vote.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anyone else have any additions or things that might be incorporated? I mean, so we can push this then, if there aren't any other comments, we can push this to Victoria and then,
Yeah, I agree.
so not next meeting, but then the next workshop meeting
Right, the
probably.
next workshop
is when we would
Right.
feasibly hold a public hearing on it.
Yeah. I would advertise it as the housing and the implementation chapter.
There we go.
I did have a few comments on the implementation chapter that are 3 or 4 years old that we never quite got to.
No, that's all right. Yep. Nope, that sounds good. Oh, we should look at this too.
All right.
So we really can't discuss a lot of this because Victoria isn't here. That's the whole point. So she should get it. Then maybe the next meeting we have, homework meeting, then we can
Yeah.
okay everything or bring it, to a vote.
All right, let's put a pin in that then.
Okay?
And we have one copy of the master plan in this case, and then I think there's something on right there, actually. All right.
So do we get one of those? No. I don't think we got one.
No, I think there's one version of it, and then
Oh,
we can
okay.
turn
Because I
around.
think it was going to be have Victoria go through it up there.
Oh, I got it. Yep. Right. Probably wasn't finished.
All right, did everyone get a copy of the planning board's rules and procedures?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. All right. All right, in terms of updates or anything to it, I think, did you have something that you
I
wanted to
do.
discuss?
Can I pass out what I
Yes,
wrote
you-
up?
Yes, you do.
Okay. I didn't want to get my hand slapped and do it ahead of time.
No,
so.
no.
This is on, it would go in on page 3.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I did this because, we talked about subcommittees. So I actually, this last paragraph that I want to add, I actually found it under another town about subcommittees to the planning board. So I just would like to reword the title of it and call it Commission Memberships, Capital Improvement Committee, and Subcommittees. And then 1, 2, and 3 would remain the same as what we have. And then I just want to add number 4. Yep.
So right now, the way our rules and procedures are set up, I mean, we could, as we could appoint a committee or a commission if we wanted to anyways. We're just sort of looking to explicitly say this.
To put it in the rules of procedures, so then it's, it's something that we do follow.
Right. I mean, but as it stands now, we could do it anyway, regardless. I mean, we're not barred from having, in your opinion.
I don't think we are, no.
Right. Not barred.
No, we can. We can have subcommittees.
Okay.
Well, I think you did it a couple of years ago, Laura, you and Karen, right, with the survey.
Yep.
Yep,
So that was kind of like a subcommittee when you did that.
yep, exactly.
Yeah, we worked on that.
Right.
Yep,
But this just kind of spells it out.
it backs it up.
Yeah.
All right. Because as it stands now, I think, when we were talking about this, at least, I mean, if someone else has, other ideas, what? But I think at a minimum, I think it would probably be best if we did have a sort of a subcommittee of some kind where, if proposed amendments or zone, came in or something like that, they could sort of contemporaneously go through this committee also, as opposed to, in addition to going through, let's say, the planning department. But at least, so that, we're looking at it at real time, and can do our
Before
research.
December,
We can do our, exactly.
before December.
So that we're not looking at something at the, pile of these things at the end of the year or something. But it's something that we could be reviewing. And then also, maybe even, if there were things that we were looking to do, like revising some definitions and things like that, or looking at what things that we could do, that we could, a bunch of us, this group could be looking at it and then report back to the planning board, perhaps, what their determinations are or what direction they think that would be, good for the board.
And I believe you'd have to make sure the subcommittee is no more than 2. Because if you get to that third, now you have a meeting.
Well,
I don't know that
You
that's.
just have to
No.
make sure that,
Or you just have
They
to
can.
keep minutes of
Yeah.
if you have.
right, but
Yeah,
it
you
it
can
would
keep
have to be
minutes and
open, all
still
that.
have it.
Yeah.
It don't have to be posted and
Yeah.
all of that.
Yeah,
So if you're posting it, then you should be
Isn't
okay.
it 3?
But it's just
Tim?
something just to be aware of, to make sure we do that.
yeah, I don't.
Remember when we met too, one time, it was 3. It was 3 of us.
Yeah, I don't remember. I mean, it could have been.
But it would just have to be posted, it's like, this 3.
Yeah, I don't think it's something we should be afraid of. I mean, if somebody if they wanted to come together as sort of a, committee of the whole or something like that, then you would have to do the normal procedures of, posting it.
Right.
Right, I'm just saying, just to make sure we follow it, that's all I'm
Right.
saying, just to be aware of that.
but I think you have to also, if you're meeting as a subcommittee, I think you have to take minutes in that meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I believe that's
Yeah.
required.
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
Which is,
yeah. I
exactly.
mean, it
That's
doesn't
what we
have
did
to
too.
no,
be real detailed,
Nope.
just,
Nope, just minutes that we met. And who met?
so Richard, are you thinking something like for the, just to get our hands around what proposed zoning amendments would be, the kind of W group, who, what, where, when, why, what are we, what are we trying to accomplish?
Well, I think as a minimum, I mean, at least from my perspective, that who, what, when, where, and why is what, who proposed something, why it was proposed, and just basically that narrative structure around it. So that it isn't, when we ask that question, it isn't like, where did this come from and such.
Let me ask another question. Are there proposed zoning amendments from previous, kind of terms, if you will, that are kind of sitting on the cutting room floor that we should look at resurrecting?
I don't think so.
Okay,
no, I don't think so either.
okay.
Sometimes early in the year, we find that we didn't do something that we thought we were going to do. And it seemed like
We
we
bring
always
it
have
up
a
the
list
next
of
year.
things to work on in the fall. But I don't think there's anything that we just didn't do for lack of time or whatever.
Well, use an example for what if it was a citizen's petition instead, and now maybe we've decided, let's try for the zoning amendment. That wouldn't be actually repeating, that's something new.
Yeah.
Is there anyone that has a desire to be on such a subcommittee if we were to have one? It's,
I thought I heard Laurie Vaughn.
Well, I wouldn't, I wouldn't mind working on zoning.
I mean,
I wouldn't mind either,
okay.
I mean, I wouldn't mind being the scribe to take minutes either.
Right. And I think, I think I'd spoken, I think to Tom, I think just in passing that, if there were such a role of some kind or whatever that, he wouldn't mind being associated with it. So,
With zoning?
correct.
Oh, I thought economic development was his thing, no?
Well, I mean, is there a role for zoning and economic development?
I mean, could you be on more than one? If you wanted to be.
I think it might be something you're gonna find as you go through the year. Okay, it'd be good to, a couple people branch off for this, for that. This is a learning process if we start doing this.
Right,
It's like anything else, you'll learn as you go.
right.
No, I think something on economic development, given, did the survey, came up with the plan last year, it might be a good idea to set that up as another subcommittee, just.
That way you're not putting everything on
Right,
just a couple people. You can have, everybody has their own little passion.
right, yeah, exactly. Yep,
And there are elements that probably too is if you have an economic development subcommittee that end up having to go
Yeah.
to zoning.
Zoning.
Because you're
Right.
looking at that saying, okay, hey, this is a way we can
Right.
incentivize, through our zoning.
And I think there was a question also, like maybe left over from last year where we wanted to, so open questions on definitions like, retail. If there was a role and, further defining, what does it mean to say that something's retail as opposed
wouldn't
to,
that be under economic development?
well, it's a
Well, it could-
definition.
Could come out of that and then
Yep.
just say, okay,
And then
this
go
is
to-
this is activity that needs to be addressed through the ordinance.
Right. Yep,
I mean, personally, I like the notion of taking on in a more direct way, the economic development opportunities.
Yeah.
Because I think there's, just personally, I believe it's a huge opportunity for us to do more in town,
I agree.
especially on small business stuff.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that one myself.
I mean, I'll be honest, I mean, apart from, I think we kind of talked about that we can propose changes to zoning or whatever, and if someone takes advantage of it, they come in, we don't have any control over that. So along those lines, what's the thought on economic development? I mean, what's our role on that? I mean, what does it mean to say that we're going to work on economic development?
You would make that one subcommittee, economic zoning?
No, I'm just saying generically speaking, what does it mean to say that we're working on economic development?
So I think, like all things, should start with the master plan. So we should add
That should be on the
economic
master plan
development
committee.
to the master plan, and that's a pretty high level thing. So, whatever that might entail. I think our website could use some improvement for economic development. The real obstacle that I see to economic development is it requires kind of day-to-day marketing. I mean, it's nice to say you want, X, Y, and Z,
Yeah.
but if nobody's there, for which we have no staff, not,
Right.
I mean, that's just a fact. I mean, not saying that we've been negligent in not having that, but you need somebody to do that somehow or other. So part of the committee's job, if you form a committee to look at economic development, is what can we do with the staff that we have? What other kind of proposals should we or could we make? So
Or even if we can, is there funding available for economic development that we could go out and acquire maybe to hire staff, I'm just posing the question out of pure ignorance, not that I think there's something out there.
there's all kinds of funding out there for this, that, and the other thing, most of which don't have a lot of insight into. The Planning Commission has better insight into some of that. But again, a lot of the grants and so forth are good to get you started. You could get money to update the master plan and update zoning and maybe even update the website. But then when it comes to implementing that, that's when the most funding that I know about isn't available. So we could, another option would be to invite somebody from the Rockingham Economic Development Corporation, I guess they are,
Try to get somebody.
to a meeting and see what they might have to say.
I'm going to be honest, that's the first time I've heard of that. So is this like a component of the RPC or is it?
The RPC works closely with them, but New Hampshire has all of these various councils, and there's 9 planning commissions, there's 6 or 7 transportation committees. None of them have the same boundaries. None of them have the same boundaries as a county. And then, there's regional health organizations, economic organizations. I mean, you name it, and there's a statewide organization. But like I say, none of them have common boundaries. And, why that is, I have not a clue.
When we were looking for one.
That could actually be
That could
the,
be a
a
help.
task of the committee is to, explore all
Find
these things,
somebody.
do the legwork and,
Invite someone in here and so we can
Yeah,
all
get
talk to them
someone.
at the same time.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's-
Why not? I mean, I think it's a worth, for the planning board as part of the master plan, I think it's a worthwhile, pursuit.
Agreed.
And really, someone who's been like Sarah was, and then was Victoria, and even though they had their own agenda, they were still very necessary here for a lot of our things, meetings. So
Yes.
to get someone, again, from up there, and that would also be into the master plan, that would be great. If they have anybody.
So this would be engaging an organization, one of these organizations, like economic organization, inviting them to come in and speak, and then using that as a point of,
They might be able to give us some guidance, what direction where we should head
Yeah.
in, the best way to get things accomplished.
In general.
No, and I like the idea of organizing it around the master plan. I think that's,
Right.
that's the right way to look at it.
We got to do that this time.
well, in terms of do it that time, what do you mean?
Well, I mean, like, we've taken up housing now, and we're supposed to be finished now with that. So I think
Okay.
the master plan should be our main concern this time.
The master plan or a component of it, economic development?
All of it, whatever. I mean, what help we can get from the RPC is welcomed. Doesn't have to be specific. It's just somebody who could organize
Yeah.
all together, right?
And are there other elements of the master plan that we want to, I mean, I look at it without having any experience on the master plan, it's just a living, breathing document. It should always be
moving.
perpetually being evaluated, updated. It seems to me that's the design. Is there stuff, if economic development is one topic, is there other topics that, we should look at? Given we've got limited time,
Right,
is
and
there
then-
something more important than economic development as it relates to the master plan that needs some attention?
Is transportation one of those things?
Certainly.
Yep, it is.
Station, yep.
Recreation chapter is probably the oldest chapter that hasn't been updated in a while.
We've had good luck before. I mean, I've been on it many years too, as you have.
Yeah.
And the way back, the very first one, it was a representative from up there. And he basically was through everything, I mean, he knew what needed here, what needed there, and he was helpful in organizing everything. He really was.
Yeah, the big thing that that I think is missing is should be in the master plan or working with the selectmen on potable water update. Where do we go after this next first group of people of whoever is signed up? Then what's next? Should be in a master plan of some kind. It seems to make sense to me to be in our master plan, but that's probably a narrow point of view.
We
But
did-
even if our master plan references another document, which you could call the water master plan or whatever, that's, that would be
It's part of
fine
it.
too.
'cause we did have somebody, I don't know, was it a year or two ago, that came in and just sort of did a high-level overview of what a water empire would look like in terms of various loops that were being built out or prospectively could be built out,
Yeah.
or having sort of private wells that might be managed, sort of linking in or into that said water system. I seem to kind of remember that a little bit.
Yeah, well, I
I
mean,
don't know where that briefing came from.
maybe Underwood And they did a lot of work early,
It probably
in
would've
getting
been
the
on
system up and,
They're still
fine.
involved, so probably.
All right. So I guess, those are all, I think those are great starting points. So do we want to establish a master plan subcommittee? Or
I'm not volunteering for that one.
you're not
I will.
volunteering for that one?
That's Karen.
I'll do that one. I mean, I don't want to be head of it, but I would love to do it with,
Yeah.
love to do it with Tim. 'Cause we did
That's something
before.
you'd want to be a part of, Tim?
Yeah. Um, Do that.
All right, do we need a third person on that, or?
The third.
Not me.
We can start with 2 and then add as
I'm
you
busy
go.
with zoning.
All right, so if we had a,
We can
prospectively,
always add to them.
zoning, master plan.
Then as each one gets going, they might decide, approach someone, see if they want to pull them in.
So Dan for zoning, and let's say Lori,
Yep.
and I think when we see Tom, we can ask if he wants to be a part, if he has a burning desire to be a part for 1 or 2.
I say he's not here, you vote him in.
You vote them in for everything.
It's like,
You want discretion, show up.
oh, jeez. All right, so the next question, I guess, in the mechanics of it, do we, we should probably, formally say we want to have these things. So, motion, seconded, and then some sort of a charter.
I think as long as we have a consensus with the subcommittees, I don't really think we need to take a vote,
Yeah, I don't think so.
right?
You don't think so?
No,
No?
I don't
agree.
think so either.
We don't want to have a charter of some kind?
A charter?
I don't know, just basically saying the name of it.
I think my number 4 kind of wraps it up pretty good.
I was just going to say the exact same thing.
Right,
I think
so-
4 kind of covers it. I was going to say that.
So in terms of a consensus then, let's say, well, if we're going to incorporate this, you're number 4. I mean, we're going to, and we're all set with this. This is something that we're going to have a public hearing and have read twice, correct?
Yeah, and like there are other things we may want to play around with
Right.
the rules of procedure, I mean, I got a couple of thoughts, but on the rules of procedure separately,
Okay,
but those we have to all agree on and read them at 2 hearings and then get the vote, whatever, I think that's.
Yeah, let's read them today, tonight.
And this can always be revisited too at any
No
time during the
question,
year.
yeah, and this was, to me, that was more like thinking about, are these things we may want to consider?
I don't think we need a public hearing to update our rules of
No,
procedure.
we don't.
I didn't think we needed
We just
that.
No, that's right, I think
We
just
just-
the site
we just
plan
read it
and
twice.
subdivision,
Right,
right?
you have to read it twice.
Yeah, but what we do need to do though is agree on language and have 2 readings. So we get, we got Karen's update is number 4. Had just a couple updates with the terms in one in numbers 1 and 2.
Those are the same that we have now.
Right, but number 1, we actually can have 2 commissioners and an alternate. So rather than recommendations to the Board of Selectmen of a commissioner, I would say for 2 commissioners and an alternate.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yep.
And then in the next paragraph, TAC members serve 3-year terms. I would say serve terms as defined by the RPC. So if the RPC changes, then our changes are automatically included.
what's the language that you want to have on that, Tim?
I'm
Let's say
sorry.
the second paragraph where you said the.
Yeah,
tax-
so the last sentence says TAC members serve 3-year terms.
Yeah.
I would change that to say TAC members serve a term as defined by the RPC.
As defined.
Lori, did you catch the change on the first one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay, what was the first one again? Sorry. Where was the change in the first one?
Change it to say the Board of Selectmen for 2 commissioners and an alternate, rather than just a commissioner.
Okay. Okay, yep.
Anyway, could we do a reading tonight on this
Yeah,
and consider it? Or is it more appropriately a different meeting?
Yeah, I think this would serve as the first reading.
And do you have anything you want to go over with the rules of procedure?
On this, I'm more like, I didn't draft any language.
Oh, okay.
I
Okay.
have some conceptual thoughts on those, but for as far as this, I mean, I think that's fine.
Yeah, and then like we said, you can always,
Yeah.
we can always revisit
Bring
this
this up
at
any
any
time of
time.
year,
anytime
too.
of year we can do this, yeah, right.
Well, I mean, I can give you an idea of
Yeah,
what I'm thinking
let's-
now.
Oh, yeah, right.
But if you want to read this so we accomplish
So
the
it's in,
first reading,
right.
then maybe.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
If we're good with this, let's have this as a first reading tonight.
Yep.
And then,
Perfect.
and then we can swing over conceptually to what you want to talk about, at least on rules and procedures. So,
Yep, clear your throat and have at it.
Go ahead.
no readers,
You're
huh?
the chair.
All right. Well, one more time on the first one again?
Okay, so instead of saying
A
committee
commissioner.
and commission memberships, we're going to reword it to commission memberships, capital improvement committee, and subcommittees.
That's what it says right on her paper. That's
Yeah, I
correct.
know, but that's the title you right there, right?
Yep.
Commission memberships, capital improvement committee, and
Committees
subcommittees.
And subcommittees.
Okay, I can't hear what's, got an echo over here.
I'm sorry.
So again, on the first one again, what's the change?
Commission memberships, capital improvement committee, and subcommittees.
Okay,
So I want to replace it, right now it says committee and commission memberships.
all right. So do we have to read the
Yep.
the way it exists now and then
Nope.
what the
Nope.
changes?
What we're changing it to.
All right, so committee and commission memberships are going to be changed to commission memberships, capital improvement committee, and subcommittees. All right. And then we're looking to add number 4, or
Well,
actually,
you gotta,
no.
you
I gotta
gotta, you
change
gotta
number
read
1 too.
Tim's, you gotta read Tim's change
Yeah.
first.
So
Number 1.
number 2, actually, right?
Number
Okay.
1.
Right. All right, Tim, what's that again? I think I lost that. I don't
Okay,
have
so
my
the-
readers
The
tonight, so
board
I'm
shall
really
make
kind of
some
struggling.
recommendation.
So number 1 would read, the board shall make recommendations to the Board of Selectmen for 2 commissioners and an alternate commissioner to serve on the Rockingham Planning Commission, RPC, in accordance with RSA 3646-3.
All right, so the board shall make recommendations to the Board of Selectmen for 2 commissioners and an alternate to serve on the Rockingham Planning Commission, RPC, in accordance with RSA 36:46-3.
Yep.
Okay. And we're looking to add a 4th condition.
Nope, you
Nope,
gotta
got
read
number
number
two.
2.
Okay. You're killing me here. All right, the change that we're looking to add is the,
Serve 3-term instead, a term.
So the last sentence would read, TAC members serve terms as defined by the Rockingham Planning Commission and may be any resident of Plastow.
There we go.
right. Okay. I'm going to ask you to read, can you read that, Karen? Because I don't have my.
Yeah, I think I've got it.
It's
Okay.
sort of
The
failed.
board shall make recommendations to the Board of Selectmen for 1 person to represent Plastow as a member of the Rockingham Planning Transportation Advisory Committee, TAC, to RPC's Metropolitan Policy Committee. TAC members serve a term as defined by the RPC and may be any resident of Plasto. Is that true still to finish that? Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, so number 3 remains the same.
yep.
And you're looking to add 4, which is
Right.
the planning board at its discretion may create additional subcommittees to work on other board projects such as zoning updates, subdivision regulation updates, site plan review updates, and any other similar projects.
Yep.
All right.
Perfect.
So if we have time after the public hearing, we can read it again and then vote on it.
Yeah, then it'll be all done.
You actually start the meeting off with it and you're done with it and putting it to
Yeah,
bed
why
in
don't we do
like
that
3
again?
minutes.
Oh, at the beginning? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I'm saying do it at the beginning, that way when it's
Okay.
done, it's only
All right.
3 minutes.
Fine by me.
Yeah, do it right after the minutes. Do the minutes and then. do
Yeah,
that.
and then it's over with and we're moving on.
Okay.
Yep.
That sounds good.
All right. You have some suggestions then?
We just have 3 tonight. And I put it in the context of just trying to get enough time to think about, site plan applications in a collective way. Because, I see constrained, it looks to me it's somewhat narrow and constrained. And as the byproduct of my recent training, going through these things, I saw that we're allowed to do a continuity of notice so that we provide one notice on the public hearing and it continues until we determine it ends. So we can say, okay, it's over when we've said the site plan's complete, the application's complete. And it allows us at these types of meetings, if we wanted to still talk, because they're public meetings, the public we notice the public, is that we're still allowed to talk about, specific site plan applications.
Not quite true.
Okay,
We continue hearings all the time.
right.
But when you continue the hearing, you have to continue it to date and time certain. So, for example, if we continue the site plan hearing until July 4th, just to pick a date, between now and July 4th, we would not be able to talk about that application because the public wouldn't know about it.
Well, again, this is the planning board in New Hampshire, I actually reached out to, it says that the initial notice may state that the application will be on the planning board's agenda for each regular meeting until a decision is made. The notice should include the board's meeting schedule.
Is this the New Hampshire Municipal Association?
Yeah, this is the
Okay.
planning board, this is OPD's
Okay.
planning board training. And NHMA.
So,
and-
but we would have had to have had it on the agenda for
Yes,
tonight.
you have to set, I'm not
Yeah.
talking about any specific plan. I'm just talking in general. If the initial notice says this will always be on our agenda, then again, I'm not malpracticing law here. I would review this with counsel. But the idea is we wouldn't be boxed into discussing them only at continued public hearings. At least that's the way I read this, and I thought it was fairly,
We'd have to get clarification on that just to make sure.
yeah. Again, just an idea. I'm not saying it.
So you're thinking that allowing, like, for instance, our homework meetings, we would be allowed to discuss it too?
Yeah, as long as we notice that that's what we would be discussing, it would have to be on the agenda. It would have to, when we did the initial, when we did the initial notice, is it includes, language, statutory language, which permits us. And again, this, I would, reach out to council and say, okay, is this something that makes sense? If we think it makes sense, we may be happy just putting these things in the buckets they're in. You're going to have complex projects that should have some freedom to.
And we've done that before. We've continued meetings and had them like on the night of a workshop. But we've let everybody know at
Well, you
that
would here,
meeting that
too.
we were continuing it to then. So they know, so when everyone's still here, they're being notified then. We have done that in the past. But to me, it's, you just want to make sure everybody there'd be proper notice for everybody.
So if,
Because I'd hate someone not to know and couldn't speak their piece.
so if we did that, do we have to let the public speak also?
It's a public meeting,
Yeah,
you know.
so you'd have
See,
to,
we kind of wanted to get away from that on our workshop meeting, because we felt like,
It's changing the
we
workshop
felt
meeting.
like we weren't getting anything accomplished.
because we had that one year, it was like, it seemed like every workshop meeting we had,
Was
Yeah.
we had
hearing.
something
Yeah, and
continued.
that's, that's to me is a valid thing. It's just, you're going to have the occasional, and it gives you flexibility.
All right, well, so in terms of just,
So you don't have to do that forever. You just, whatever you
Yeah, you gotta make
notice,
sure it
whatever
doesn't
you
turn into
notice,
everything.
that's how you do it. So you don't, it's not a requirement, it's not a shall that you would have to do it for every site plan.
Right.
Right, and like we've done, like I said, we've done that in the past. If, like, I think when we had the warehouse, when that came up.
Yes. Right.
We had that was
ended
on
up
a
being
bunch of
every single
workshops. That
meeting.
was almost like every meeting, I think. We
Yes, it
talked
was.
about it.
It
Was,
was.
For a
and we
little
didn't-
bit.
And that's why we didn't get anything done either. But let's see.
well, so it sounds like in practice, like we said of the warehouse, we probably did something similar to it, but we just sort of formally just had sort of rolling public hearings that just
Right, well,
took
basically
the
what,
place of our,
just kind of what it would be is, if I remember right, that we'd continue it, we'd say it right then and there at
Yeah.
that meeting. We're gonna continue this to our next meeting, which is in 2 weeks.
all right.
And we'd say it right then and there that night.
All right. So just in terms of this idea of a contiguity or continuity of notice or what, we could probably just do a little research on that, just to kind of be clear on what, I mean, if there is a mechanism in place, then maybe that's another tool that, maybe we should conceptually know about whether or not it should be adopted is,
Well, it would be nice to know, the legality of it, but.
right.
As Karen pointed out, if you say something like that, then every meeting, you've got to take up that public hearing. And if somebody from the public is here, then do you also have the developer in? What can you accomplish in that meeting? So there's, a few things to think about.
If you look on the meetings, there is one there, public hearing meetings. Under extenuating circumstances, the chair may continue the public hearing to the first Wednesday of the following month with the consensus of the board. It's on page 6. And then it says workshop meetings up above that too. Under C, typically public hearings are not scheduled during workshop meetings.
Right.
However, the chair may continue a previously scheduled public hearing to a workshop meeting with the consensus of the board. Was that good
So
enough to cover?
may, and it doesn't mean it's for every single one, which might.
They
like-
may, so you're just basically saying it, because whenever we continue one, we say we're continuing it and we give a date then.
So usually if we continue it to a workshop session, it's because maybe they're adding a couple of notes.
Okay.
And so, it's a
I think it
5-minute
depends on what they're doing.
Yeah.
in and out. We don't, just in general, continue it to a workshop
But, I mean, we
session.
can take a look, see if you want to change that at all.
But to Tim's point, it's, it's kind of nice to have a workshop session that's not going to be,
Right, it should be the exception, not the rule.
yeah. But anything else?
Yes.
All right.
How do we, how are we enforcing site plans? Because they come in here, we have all these conditions, they're all listed on the site plan, and they leave. How do those conditions always get enforced? Because I know that on the certificate of occupancy for a business, there is a line for the planning board engineer to sign off on that. And is that a process where the planning board engineer comes back to us, lists, okay, these are the 50 things, they're all done, I'm signing off, you guys are okay? Or do they just, have we just given them blanket authority to just, okay, in their discretion, everything's okay?
In our, somewhere in our procedures, we have various checkpoints that the engineer needs to supervise. For example, for roads, I think he has to observe the compaction test, has to make sure that the binder and top coat of the asphalt is the right thickness, and then eventually we get a letter from him saying that the applicant has met all of the site plan requirements. Then that's the point where they can get the certificate of occupancy. After that happens, then it's the code enforcement officer to make sure that the applicant continues to comply with the site plan.
Right. That moves on to a whole different
Yeah.
area. I was just asking the question is, whatever we stipulate, how do we stay in control
Yeah.
of that until we're comfortable that it's been done?
Aren't we finally, didn't we come up with this finally at the end of a couple of these? That it has to be written on the site plan, certain conditions. Remember, we said now we're going to start writing it on the plan, which kind of gives you some protection in a way, it protects both. But okay,
No, but I'm just saying, writing on the it's okay,
writing on the site plan?
that's, we've given you what you need to do. Where's the check that it's actually been done? And if it's the engineer that's signing off,
Right,
is all of it, is it, do we get a letter or do they come in and they say, okay,
I see what you're saying.
is 80% of it done? And this is, so if they're signing off on a certificate of occupancy, if the planning board's engineer is signing off on that CO, that means everything's been done.
Yeah.
Is that a fair statement?
Pretty much. Sometimes when we get projects late in the fall, it's not always a good idea to do some of the landscaping and that kind of thing. So we do allow a CO to be issued, a temporary CO for X number of days.
Okay.
And then in the springtime, when they can finish up the landscaping, then that ultimately they get a permanent certificate of occupancy.
So it's almost like a conditional CO based
The
on
condition.
these 5 things.
Yeah.
I think that's what we did with the storage facility.
Yes.
Yeah, we've done that a fair number of
Yeah.
Yeah,
times.
yeah.
And
More
it just makes
just a
common
general
sense.
question, how do we
Right,
stay in
right.
control
Yeah.
of what
I
we
understand.
have? Okay.
Just recently, I think wasn't there an email that came out that said that given how they've changed things at the county and how these plans are filed, that the written conditions that would be on the plan aren't something that gets logged anymore up at the county. But they're on the plans here that are on file here, the planning staff. I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on what usually the condition will be receipt of the DOT driveway permit. And then what we require on the site plan is that DOT driveway permit number. We don't write out
The actual,
all the language of the condition, but just some note that indicates that the condition was met.
I thought it meant that she couldn't file it with the Rockingham Registry of Deeds until the condition was met. Didn't the condition have to be met before she could file it?
right,
Well, I thought there was a question, like for instance, if we were saying that it was going to be, let's say, well monitoring or something that would be continuing a number of years in the future, and
right.
that the applicant was going to do or something like that. Conditions like that. That it's all they've completed everything, everything's in place, but there might be like a schedule or something, a monitoring schedule or something that's
Monitoring it
put in.
afterwards. Yeah.
That's put in.
Oh, okay.
So many years.
And I
That-
didn't.
That doesn't come back to the planning board, then
No,
that shifts
no,
over to
no.
code enforcement, correct?
Right,
Right.
right.
They're responsible for making sure the wells are being monitored, or
Yeah,
if swales have to be, on a private property, if swale, for stormwater runoff or whatever, that's code enforcement, right?
It is, but I think normally if we do something like that, we would have the applicant or the owner submit a letter saying for 2024, on June 2nd, the monitoring was done and results were satisfactory, or whatever the thing was.
Is that requirement in the subdivision or site plan regulations?
That's where it needs to be. If it's not there,
No, I'm just,
yeah.
all right, I mean, but that's,
maybe that's what we should do.
again, it's not to bring the force of government down on top of someone, but, just like if we're going through all this trouble of spending time, effort, and having the applicant spend time, effort, and engineers, to me, it's like, okay, if we're gonna do 5 things, we gotta do 5 things, And how do we just ensure that?
All right, so we just need to kind of be clear on what the mechanism is then. I mean,
Right.
that's something that should be
What's the
incorporated.
order, which is done?
Something like that should be incorporated in like site plan requirements or subdivision. And
Yeah.
Should be. Right.
if we wanted to do something like that, what's the mechanism for us?
Where do you, yeah.
What's the mechanism for us to kind of push that forward to actuality?
It's up to the planning staff to monitor, make sure that gets done.
Okay. Do you have anything else?
I think those 2 would take longer than I thought they would.
Okay.
I'm gonna reserve my next one till,
Oh, yeah, kind of space it out a little
Yeah.
bit. Okay.
Okay.
I'm experiencing vision failure as we speak here.
This was on page 6.
All right.
That was good.
Well, Tim, to you, I suppose. Conservation Commission, prime wetlands.
Yeah, normally they meet first Thursday of the month.
Okay.
but they're not meeting tomorrow. So they won't be meeting until the first Thursday in June.
Okay, I got a question on conservation. If I can ask one.
And is, you anticipate, is that on the agenda to at least discuss when that,
On the Concom's agenda?
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, if we're going to do a joint meeting of some kind, when that might be, or, those mechanics. Because is it required, are we doing a required public hearing for it, or is this just,
It depends on how we want to go forward. Two of the members were not available tomorrow night, so they have probably the best input on the wetlands, which is why the meeting was canceled. Nothing else was on the agenda except minute approval, so it's not, we usually don't meet just to approve minutes and they get postponed.
I wanted to ask a question too. On conservation, period. What is the last time that we actually looked for pieces of land that could, kind of like to save land is kind of what I'm looking at, to fall under conservation? When was the last time they actually, besides the forest that we have with the trails, conservation land in Plastow?
We have looked at land that's adjacent to some of the park land, the recreation field land.
Okay,
That's, there are a couple other, yeah.
what about Cox Farm?
Oh,
Is that considered?
yep, that's already under easement.
Okay, okay,
As you're driving towards Newton on Crane Crossing,
yep,
the property to the left is under easement.
okay,
The property to the right was just whatever amount of money that they wanted for that, we would have had to purchase it.
okay.
It was just pretty outrageous. So we didn't do anything.
We didn't do it, okay.
Now that, those things change.
Right.
Not necessarily year to year.
No.
But then there's another piece would be on the southern border of the town forest off of,
Okay.
oh, geez, I forget, Carlton Path.
Oh, yes, yeah, okay, yep.
And that guy, again, the price was just more than we thought the property was worth. So
So there's no parcels, though, that are just kind of around or that we could maybe look at that we haven't looked at all to find?
not,
Really isn't that much in Plastow, is that what we're saying?
yeah,
I don't think there's a whole lot out there.
I know, I just hate to see anything go.
I know what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, I just, at that point, what can we do to save some? That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying
Yeah.
all, but to save some. And we haven't done it, if I remember correctly, for quite a few years now. And now I understand on
Yeah.
those two. So I just was curious on what they were doing now.
yeah, well, I mean, certainly if anyone has any suggestions. But yeah, we haven't looked at all of the parcels that are undeveloped and to see if there was something that we might be interested in.
Okay, I guess that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, we haven't done that in a while, other than the ones that I just
You
mentioned.
just said, yeah, okay.
Is there a minimum you look at? Like you say, okay, we're not looking at anything under 2 acres or does it?
It depends on the size.
And where it is, I would assume too.
Yeah. One of the Hale Spring property.
Yep.
That comes up from, in the Board of Selectmen from time to time to sell that land. We usually write
That
them
would
a
probably be a good piece of land to put in conservation.
Yep. Exactly what I'm thinking.
that's a possibility. Could look at that.
Yeah, see, I just didn't know if you guys had.
Is that
a list.
like 4 or 5 acres?
Something in that order, yeah.
Yeah.
We certainly have always written a letter or email saying we were not in favor of that being sold, and we
Right.
should
I just
keep it
thought
as a
maybe
town
working on
property.
it now, we could make it a solid conservation. I would like to see it, so I didn't know where we go and who does it, and how can we do it.
Yeah.
But that could be brought up at a conservation meeting, maybe, or if we met with them, could that be brought up too?
Sure.
Joint meeting? Okay. Thank you.
All right. I think in your packets, I think looks like the methodology for impact fee calculations. Safety, school, and
Yeah.
recreation. And I guess we talked about last meeting whether or not we're going to put it out in terms of request for proposal. And I guess the understanding is that there aren't too many people that do these types of updates. So it'd be sort of more of a formality, I guess, in terms of saying that what we want to review or have somebody look at.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we've had Bruce Mayberry do all the impact fees, or the 3 that are here. And so when we were ready to update them, we contacted Bruce again. And he would, submit a cost estimate, and if it was, reasonable, then we would contract with him to do the update. I think Bruce himself has retired, but his company is still there. So, I don't know, it might be worthwhile to put out an RFP to update. And then I would specify in the RFP, we'd be looking to do all of them at the same time, which might be prohibitively expensive, or to do, to list a separate cost for each one.
All right, so an RFP for all of them, and then maybe
Separately.
breakdown.
Yeah. Now, the other impact fee we have is the road impact fee, which John Scruton, remember John, was our town manager
Yeah.
quite some time ago at this point. He scribbled out the road impact fee, which we've been using for a while. So,
What do you mean he scribbled it out?
well,
You ever been in a business meeting and you're sitting at the bar and you pull out a napkin? All right, let's map this out.
he invested some time to come up with that number.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not scribble. I meant it's like, scribble, like we're not doing it anymore, or like
no.
now
It was
it's more
a
like
little
I have
more
an
involved
idea.
than that.
Okay.
Unfortunately, none of us have been able to track down what his methodology was. So it's kind of sitting out there.
It's awesome.
Not good.
So is that something we want to also just kind of include, like in addition to these 3?
Yeah,
Road impact 3, question mark.
Yeah, you can always,
yeah. If you don't have a methodology behind what you're charging, that's never a good thing.
How
And
much
it's,
did one of these cost, Tim?
I'm sorry, Tim?
How much did one of these cost? Like, say, the public safety? What was the rough price?
Yeah.
of these?
I think the last time we did that one was 8,000 or 9,000.
that was 5 years ago, right?
5 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
And as we know, prices have gone down.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, the good news is with the methodology sort of in place, it really is more of an update.
Right.
Except I would say I mean, the school's there, but
Right.
one of the problems with the school is a lot of the bonds have been paid off. So that was a big part of the cost behind the fee that ultimately came up. And the same with recreation. A lot of those projects are done. So those are,
But in terms of safety, that's where, we have big ticket items that would
yes.
probably benefit the most from an update.
Right.
Yeah, I would say, since, I don't know what the cost basis is, it's in here. But for fire trucks, it in the methodology is probably $500,000. And now they're all closer to $1.5 million. So,
They're even more than that now.
well, yeah.
So what's the mechanism for us saying that we want to do an RFP in the way of like, for all and then apart? I mean, is that,
Yeah, I mean, we'd come up with the language for RFPs, and then however that gets distributed over municipal links and whatever. I don't know what that process is, but
from our perspective, I mean, does it require a motion from the board, or is it a more of a consensus to say that we would like to update the RFPs and just kind of pass
I think
it
to do
along?
the RFP can be just a consensus, we're just getting information.
I think so you can figure where the money would come from to pay for it too.
Right.
When we get the RFPs back and we decide on that we want to do one of them, then that would require a motion, because that's spending real money.
Real money, yeah.
No. And that would be, what's the turnaround time for something like that? I mean, just in terms of, I'm thinking for budgeting.
Budgeting, you could put any amount you want on there, 30 days.
Well, I mean, for the RFP. So, I mean, we put that out and say that,
I would think probably within 60 days,
Yeah.
we would get a response.
60 days.
But that's right in the RFP when they have to respond by.
Yeah.
And then that would give us time to engage in the budgeting process. It could either be.
And that's
yes.
what it is, you're gonna build for next year's budget.
Right.
Yeah, because the thought was to do this in 2025,
Right.
right?
So you get your pricing now, and
Yeah.
Right.
that's obviously part of the RFP too, right? This is be for work done in February of next year, whatever.
Right.
All right, so this wouldn't actually really cost us any money then to say that, consensus wise, let's put out an RFP, the idea that in 60 days, we get something back, and we can use that to inform the budget process. And then at some point, someone could say that, no, we're not going to do that, or that's a great idea, we should do that.
Right.
So.
Or at least a portion of it, you pick one each year to
Right.
do.
So,
Yeah, maybe pick the one you think is going to give you the best bang.
That's-
Which is the public safety. That's the one.
I mean, that was 2019, but I mean, we've seen roughly a 40% increase across the board and everything in the last couple of years,
That's true.
inflation wise.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
And
Keep it handy.
and I guess just a couple things, just
Yep.
Tim, you know, in terms of our, you know, committees or whatever that you're on, you have the RPC and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And I think last time, there seemed to be a lot of information about, you know, scheduling or whatever for sidewalks, things like that and such. And also maybe is there a legislative, is there a legislative link or something that you have, what that is?
Yeah, I have a spreadsheet with all of the legislative bills that are relevant to the planning commissions, land use, transportation, a few miscellaneous things.
Is that something you just maintain, or is that a service that
Every week, I update that. And by this time of year, it's getting pretty old.
Yeah.
The good news is, as you go through the year, more bills get either ITL'd, which
Drawn out.
Inexpedient to legislate.
inexpedient to legislate. There you go.
Which means,
Yeah.
yeah,
Or,
it's gone.
Yeah. So there's about a dozen or so that are ready to be enrolled, which means the Attorney General reviews them to make sure they're legal. And then once that happens, then they go to the governor.
Oh,
So usually things get, the governor either signs them or vetoes them by the end of the fiscal year, which for the state is June 30th.
Right.
Sometimes they extend into the summer before he signs or vetoes them.
So you're maintaining that, you maintain that organic spreadsheet, just,
Yeah, I can make, or I can send copies if you want. It's there, just
all right,
email it to him.
please. I think that would be,
I'll
yeah,
have-
I know, like Concord wise, if there's some particular bill of interest or something that a committee is doing, you can,
I get it on my email all the time, the bills that are coming up.
There's a tracking, actually, you can
Yeah.
go on, and there's a service that's part of the state that if you wanna, you put in a bill number and you can ask for them just to update you when there are changes. in
I
that
do, I
bill.
get the update every week.
Yeah,
There's some things like that. Like I get a lot of ag stuff, you know, or, stuff that's pertaining to agriculture.
Right.
I track those and get that.
I get them on my phone.
all right. Anyone else have anything else? Communications, updates, other business?
Just want to read the site walk thing, just to,
Yes, site walk. Is that the last thing in the back here? Yeah,
would you prefer me to read it?
that's probably best, because at this point, this is, I can't read that, anything
Where's your
between the bold.
glasses?
That was the subject of all my readers are,
Oh,
there might be a pair in the Plasto Pizza parking lot,
oh, okay.
so.
His wife probably hit him, he'll get home. You
I
need to
have
sign
three
this.
and I lose all three, all three of them.
So, yeah. So, yes, I
Yeah, I'll read
appreciate
it,
it.
just
Thank
to
you.
make it easy. Just so everyone's aware out there, the Plastow Planning Board will conduct a site walk. This was part of the related application 24-04. This was continued from March 20th and April 17th, 2024. In regards to PB 24-04, the completeness of an application from Albert Couillard for a residential subdivision application. Plan proposes a 9-lot residential standard subdivision of a parcel known as Parcel A, created by the subdivision of a parcel at 93 Forest Street, CPB 24-03. The application proposes 9 separate residential lots, each supported by its own on-site well and septic, and with the frontage on a new plus or minus 1,792 feet roadway that will access from Newton Road, which is Route 108, The plan also proposes drainage and related infrastructure. The property owner of record is Haverhill Golf and Country Club. The application is found to be complete. The planning board will immediately conduct the public hearing, which we did. So the next thing is we're going to conduct a site walk that'll commence with a property fronts on Newton Road between Country Club Lane and Red Oak Drive. The public's welcome to attend. And I think from what we've been told, if you're going to show up, please wear boots.
Exactly. All right.
But if anybody has an interest, I think it's a good thing for them to take part in so you know what's going on out there. And the public's input is always welcome.
Absolutely. All right. No one else has anything else? Then we'll close this meeting at 7:55.
Wow, before 8
Good
o'clock.
start.